Tonight, Donald Trump prepares for a historic return to the White House, while Kamala Harris urges voters to keep fighting for America's future. Hello, I'm Pamela Medlen. This is ABC News. World leaders react to the election result and how it could reshape global policies and international relations. The father of a girl allegedly starved by her parents admits verbally abusing his wife and accessing her finances. And the federal government's plan to ban children under the age of 16 from social media. Donald Trump has spent his first day as US President-elect largely out of the public eye, taking calls of congratulations from world leaders and his defeated opponent. His emphatic political comeback hailed not only as a historic victory, but also a force set to reshape the future of America. We have correspondents throughout the United States unpacking the appeal behind the Republicans' election-winning pitch. Jade McMillan begins our coverage with the flood of support in Trump's home state of Florida.
Celebrations in the streets for an historic victory. Donald Trump's supporters flocked to his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida.
First thing I did is cry. Tears of happiness. We won!
Trump won!
We couldn't keep our excitement to ourselves. So I said, let's go to Mar-a-Lago, and he said, okay.
What had been tipped to be a very close race was instead a decisive win. Donald Trump's son Eric sharing a behind-the-scenes snapshot of the moment before the 45th president addressed the nation about becoming the 47th.
Hey, look what happened. Is this crazy?
Donald Trump repeatedly insulted Kamala Harris on the campaign trail. But when the vice president called to congratulate him, a spokesman said he acknowledged her strength, professionalism and tenacity. The man who replaced him 4 years ago also reached out to commit to a smooth and peaceful transition of power.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president.
The president-elect made the economy and immigration central to his campaign, promising major new tariffs on imports and the largest mass deportation of undocumented immigrants in US history.
When Donald Trump was first elected in 2016, he was a political outsider. This time, he has experience and a much better understanding of how to achieve his goals, as well as what he describes as a powerful mandate.
Implementing his agenda has been made easier after Republicans took control of the Senate. The House of Representatives is still too close to call.
What I'm most impressed by is not just the size of the victory, I know the number's still growing, but the way Donald Trump won this election. He won it by fundamentally remaking the Republican Party.
The first ever convicted felon to be elected president is supposed to be sentenced on the New York hush money charges later this month. But it's unclear whether that will go ahead. And the federal cases against him are reportedly being wound down. Another win in the eyes of his many backers. Jade McMillan, ABC News, West Palm Beach.
A defiant and dignified Kamala Harris has conceded defeat after the crushing loss. Her speech to supporters at Howard University in Washington was part rallying cry and part pep talk.
It was to have been a big outdoor party. Instead, it felt more like a wake.
Folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it.
Kamala Harris confirmed she'd conceded defeat, getting in a dig at her opponent.
When we lose an election, we accept the results.
Then came a rallying call.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
This was fighting talk from the Vice President, but within the Democratic Party, the soul-searching and the recriminations are just beginning. It must ask itself who or what is to blame for this bitter loss and why its vision for the future of this country did not speak to more Americans.
This should have been a landslide victory, and it wasn't.
And the Democrats need to do a better job of reaching working class voters.
As the post-mortem continues, there will also be talk of how, as sitting Vice President, Kamala Harris struggled to differentiate herself from an unpopular administration.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
And the former prosecutor often struggled to articulate her positions.
To understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
Celebrities lined up to endorse her.
Let's go, Pamela!
But all to no avail.
She gave her all, and that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just devastated.
Preparations for Donald Trump's inauguration have already begun as Kamala Harris returns to her day job as deputy to the man she replaced. Barbara Miller, ABC News, Washington.
Mr. Trump enters his second term as US President in a vastly different domestic and global environment to his first in 2016. Here's Global Affairs Editor John Lyons.
This is, without doubt, an emphatic victory by Donald Trump. But having pulled off one of the most remarkable political comebacks in modern times, Trump is now in full control of the Republican Party and will wield huge influence over the Senate and the House. With powerful backers such as Elon Musk, Trump will now set about implementing his agenda: smaller government, less regulation, a tougher border policy, a crackdown on crime, more support for Israel, less support for Ukraine, and a much more aggressive stance towards China, using tariffs as a weapon. He may also target institutions he's claimed set out to destroy him, such as the US Department of Justice. This is likely to be 4 years like we've never seen before. The world is about to see the true nature of Trump's America.
Donald Trump's decisive win was aided by a surprising increase in support from African Americans. Hispanics and lower income households hit hardest by inflation also helped fuel his victory.
Days ago, Adriana Zapata was a hopeful campaigner for Kamala Harris, even hosting the Vice President at a Mexican restaurant in August.
It was just such an elated, happy moment.
But today, she watched her concede, knowing many within her community voted for Donald Trump.
Aprobado el menudo.
Adriana says Donald Trump's message on the economy cut through to Latinos, but especially his tough stance on immigration.
People who have gained citizenship or a right to be in the country legally, they know the struggle they went through to obtain that.
Latino men were among one of the biggest gains for Donald Trump.
I trust Donald Trump more than any other president we've had.
I did vote for Donald Trump, personally not because of who he is, but his policies that align with mine.
But for others, Trump's threat of mass deportations cuts deep.
A lot of Latino men have come here to the United States to seek a better life, so some have established themselves, and it seems that they have forgotten about their roots.
Here in Arizona, some within the Latino community say for too long, politicians have treated them as if they're one homogenous monolith. This result shows the diversity in their political leanings, but also in their lived experience and values.
Hallelujah. As justice in his world prevails yet again.
Trump also gained votes among young black men who feel taken for granted by the Democratic Party.
Black lives don't matter to them. Black votes matter to them.
But here too, Trump's promises of a better economy hit home.
You know, when Trump was in office, some of my sons have their own business, and they seen that their business flourished.
A new generation with new voting habits. Isabella Higgins, ABC News, Phoenix.
In Canberra, the Prime Minister has spoken to President-elect Donald Trump to congratulate him on his victory. The federal government is now anticipating what Trump's return to power will mean for security, trade and investment.
Donald Trump is headed back to the White House. And like his predecessors, Anthony Albanese will face an unpredictable US president.
No, I'd look forward to working with President Trump.
Assuming the volatility of his first term is replicated second time around.
President Trump has campaigned on change. We shouldn't be surprised if there is change.
Trump's vow to impose tariffs on imports is the immediate concern, as it would affect Australia's direct exports to the US and China's exports made with Australian resources.
We're a trading nation and we will continue to be advocates for free and fair trade.
Both Labor and the Coalition are optimistic Trump will back the AUKUS Defence Pact and Australia's acquisition of nuclear submarine technology.
AUKUS is providing increased capability across both our nations.
But Trump's commitment to the Paris Agreement is far less certain, given he pulled out of the Climate Change Pact last time he was in the Oval Office. The federal government saying if that happens, it won't change Australia's stance.
We are going to have to be able to prosper in a world where much of the global economy is moving to net zero.
Ambassador Kevin Rudd has been working hard to build connections with the Republicans, despite his and Anthony Albanese's sharp words about Trump in the past.
He scares the shit out of me.
We will make sure, Mr Speaker, that President Trump is not somebody to be scared of, but somebody that we can work very closely with.
The PM and the President-elect spoke on the phone today, and in the call, Trump described Australia and America as perfect friends, a congenial start. But the real work begins after Trump's inauguration in January, when the ritual courtesies give way to realpolitik. Melissa Clark, ABC News, Canberra.
There have been mixed feelings about the election result in Western Australia, with the Premier raising concerns a Trump presidency could hurt the local economy. WA's billionaire mining magnates have also weighed in on what the new presidency means for WA and its major trading partners.
Some 15,000 kilometres from Washington DC, an ominous forecast from the leader of Australia's mining capital.
In the event that we have a Trump government, well, that's obviously a very concerning development.
On the eve of the US election, WA Premier Roger Cook warned any trade tariffs imposed on China would be felt in WA.
To the extent that the Trump administration have suggested that they want to kill off trade, they're a threat to Western Australian jobs.
Economist Mike Dockery says trade tariffs could slow demand for WA iron ore.
Quite possibly a fall in the iron ore price. The iron ore price has been pretty resilient, staying at about $100 US a tonne till now. But once it drops off, we know for every dollar it drops off, the WA budget takes a hit.
But WA's richest mining magnates aren't concerned. Gina Rinehart celebrating at the Donald Trump victory party, and Andrew Forrest telling journalists this week the amount of horsepower in the tank of China's economy and their ability to self-stimulate is phenomenal. A peak mining lobby group says its fossil fuel members are celebrating, while those in the critical mineral and renewables game are not.
There are certain people that are very much focused on the energy transition and would see President Trump as a slowdown to that. There are also many of you in our membership that still recognise the importance of energy reliability and security.
The WA Premier released a statement this afternoon congratulating the new president, while also adding that the WA economy relies on a strong and stable global trading environment. Rhiannon Shine, ABC News.
Europe will be closely watching to see what ramifications Donald Trump's victory will have on the war in Ukraine, as well as security and trade.
While the world stopped to watch the US presidential race, Russia's offensive in Ukraine pressed on. Trump's victory met with mixed reactions.
He will certainly try to reach a deal with Putin.
We will have to give up the territories. He will try to convince us.
They have plenty of money. Trump has promised a quick end to the conflict.
I will have that war settled in one day.
But many fear a hasty peace deal would force Ukraine to cede land to Russia. The Ukrainian leader, nonetheless, wishing Trump well.
Today is truly a special day. I congratulate him on his victory.
Moscow withheld its congratulations, calling the US an unfriendly country.
Our president doesn't trust him much, so I think nothing will change.
Trump's victory is undoubtedly more promising for us in terms of ending military action in Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Europe's leaders lined up to welcome the president-elect.
I look forward to working with him in the years to come.
Germany will remain a reliable transatlantic partner.
The United States is a major contributor to NATO, the security pact that defends much of Europe. Donald Trump has previously toyed with the idea of pulling out, accusing members of not paying their way.
In the wake of his victory, French and German defence ministers urged NATO nations to boost contributions. Europe's leaders will be meeting in Budapest to talk security.
We cannot afford any capability gaps in our ability to defend ourselves in Europe.
Calls for unity now sounding more urgent, with Trump set to take the reins once more in the new year. Catherine Diss, ABC News, London.
One of the key challenges Mr Trump will have to tackle as president is the US's relationship with Israel and the ongoing conflict in both Gaza and Lebanon. Here's Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran.
Benjamin Netanyahu needs Donald Trump. It's a pretty simple equation. The US remains the largest donor of military aid to Israel, and Israel's stockpiles are severely depleted given its continuing wars in Gaza and in Lebanon. Benjamin Netanyahu also knows Donald Trump is very popular among the Israelis he needs to prop up support for his government. And it's not necessarily a case that a new US president would turn off the tap, would stop that flow of aid, but Donald Trump is likely to drive a far harder bargain. He is, as he continues to tell us, a businessman after all, and shipping a seemingly never-ending supply of weapons to this part of the world is unlikely to be seen as a smart investment. He may well give the Netanyahu government a bit more freedom to figure out how to end the wars, but will insist a conclusion needs to be found. And with death tolls of more than 43,000 in Gaza and more than 3,000 in Lebanon, that deadline can't come soon enough. Although Donald Trump's plans, once the wars have finished, are unclear.
The construction division of Perth builder Niche Living has gone into external administration after long delays left more than 200 customers with unfinished homes. Kaur Mentha has been appointed to restructure 3 Niche Living Group companies. It comes after the state government struck a deal with the builder last month to waive its insurance liability if it gave up its registration. Niche Living's development division isn't affected, which Consumer Protection says will safeguard customers who bought an apartment.
As far as we understand, the developers are in talks with a number of different entities to have that apartment building completed, and it's in their best interest to have it completed.
The father of a girl allegedly starved by her parents has admitted being verbally abusive to his wife and having access to her finances. The couple are on trial accused of engaging in conduct that caused their child to suffer. Answering questions from the mother's lawyer, the father admitted having access to his wife's phone, lying about who was calling and deleting text messages. He also said he was verbally abusive. The father told the court he controlled the household's finances and dictated how the family was run. He also said he hadn't passed on to his wife's concerns about their daughter's health. A teenager charged with manslaughter over a crash that killed a young footballer has surrendered himself into custody despite being free on bail. It's alleged the teenager was driving the car which killed 18-year-old Nick Campo and injured 5 others at North Lakes, south of Perth in July.
In what the court heard was an effort to show remorse, the 17-year-old voluntarily asked for his bail to be revoked. He's accused of driving a ute at a speed exceeding 100 kilometres an hour when it crashed into another car on Farrington Road. Nick Campo died at the scene. 5 others were injured.
It's a nightmare. It's, it's something we can never, ever get out of. It's like, very hard to describe.
The charge against the young driver was upgraded to manslaughter in August. He was previously granted bail, but will now be in custody until his next court appearance in December.
Yeah, a little bit of solace, a little bit of happiness that, the perpetrator won't be sleeping in his own bed tonight.
More than 150 people have been killed on the state's roads this year, the highest figure in 8 years. Campo's parents have been campaigning on his behalf, launching Call Out for Nick to help educate young drivers and their parents about road safety.
This young child needs to learn from his mistakes, and hopefully there's some remorse and, unfortunately we'll never pick up the pieces.
New laws introduced last month mean red P-plate drivers will be restricted to just one passenger in their car from December. Tabarak Al-Jarood, ABC News.
A coronial inquest into the suspected death of a woman in Kalgoorlie 25 years ago has been told a bikie associate has been in contact with a key witness who police haven't been able to find. Lisa Govan was last seen outside the Club Darrow's headquarters in Kalgoorlie on the morning of October the 8th, 1999. Today, gang associate Michael Heaton told the court he phoned Andrew Edhouse about news articles this week. The inquest has been told Mr Edhouse was not able to be contacted to be served witness summons. Mr Heaton also said he spoke with another associate who appeared yesterday about what questions he was asked. Children aged under 16 will be banned from accessing social media under laws set to land in federal parliament within weeks. But social media companies say enforcing a ban won't be straightforward.
Australia is Plenty of young people love social media, and social media loves them back. It's a relationship the Prime Minister wants to break up.
And this one's for the mums and dads. Social media is doing harm to our kids, and I'm calling time on it.
Apps like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X and YouTube are set to be banned for people under 16 years old.
The onus will be on social media platforms to demonstrate they are taking reasonable steps to prevent access. The onus won't be on parents or young people.
We would like to see not only the legislation introduced this year, we would like to see the legislation pass the Parliament this year.
The platforms are already pushing back. Facebook and Instagram's parent company warning what's missing is a deeper discussion on how we implement protections. While tech industry body Digi says to enforce a blunt ban, all Australians would have to provide their personal information, such as an ID or an image of their face, to verify their age.
We're not really hearing those granular details yet from the Albanese government about how this is going to work.
Among young people who've grown up with social media, views are mixed.
I don't know if it should be banned, but I think there should be more restrictions.
I don't think all social media is bad. I just think it should be very heavily limited.
It's just like really easy to bully people on social media.
A ban is both blunt and imperfect. There's little doubt some young people will find a way around it. But the government argues it will, at the very least, empower anxious parents to say no to teenagers, insisting all their friends are online. Tom Lowry, ABC News, Canberra.
The consumer watchdog has approved a deal that will see Chemist Warehouse become the largest pharmacy retail in Australia. The merger with wholesaler Sigma Healthcare will create an $8.8 billion pharmaceutical giant operating nearly 1,000 stores. The ACCC says the alliance wouldn't substantially reduce competition, but it has slapped conditions on the takeover, asking for pharmacies to be allowed to switch suppliers and have their data deleted. To finance now, American markets surged last night, but the Australian markets weren't able to keep up. Here's Alan Kohler.
In the US markets right now, it's all about what they're calling the Trump trades, and there's a few of them. So let's go. The big banks like Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo and JP Morgan, and credit card operators, American Express and Visa, surged because not only is Trump expected to cut the company tax rate, but he's also expected to cut financial regulations. The prospect of tariffs pushed up stocks like Caterpillar and steelmakers Nucor and Steel Dynamics. Tesla jumped nearly 15%, even though Trump is apparently against electric vehicles, because Elon Musk is inside the tent, so Tesla should be a winner. But the biggest winners were private prison operators, Geo Group and Core Civic. The US dollar and the long-term interest rate both went up because the tariffs would be inflationary and delay further rate cuts, although the Fed is expected to announce a 0.25% cut tonight. And there were losers as well. Renewable energy businesses like First Solar and Enphase Energy were dumped, as were copper and silver, because of concerns about the Chinese economy if that 60% tariff goes ahead. The Dow Jones average had its best day in 2 years, up 3.5%. The S&P 500 2.5% and the Nasdaq 1.4%. Surprisingly, the Chinese markets did okay, while shares in Japan and Germany fell. The Australian market went up a bit, with gains by banks and resources stocks offset by falls among retailers and Westpac going ex-dividend. Here's the usual list of commodities. Gold, silver and iron ore down, oil up. and the Australian dollar rose against all the other currencies, including the higher US dollar, and I've got no idea why. And that's finance.
In sport, Test hopefuls Nathan McSweeney and Cameron Bancroft have fallen cheaply on day one of the tour game against India A at the MCG. The Australia A captain, McSweeney, opened the batting and was dismissed for 14. Bancroft's run of outs continued when he fell for 3. Marcus Harris was 26 not out and Australia A was 2 for 53 at stumps. Earlier, Michael Neser took 4 wickets as India A was dismissed for 161. Neser left the field with a hamstring injury and won't bowl again in the game. Fremantle has been boosted by the return of star defender Ash Brazil for Saturday's AFLW elimination final against Essendon at Fremantle Oval. Brazil has been named to play despite being in a moon boot at training today, where she sat out several drills. Sarah Verrier and Philippa Seth will play their 50th AFLW matches in the final, but Seth says they won't be distracted by the milestone.
It's just another game, and I guess it is a little bit of a milestone that we like to celebrate earlier on in the week, and then when it gets to game day, we'll treat it as game day.
A fast finish from the Townsville Fire has condemned the Perth Lynx to its first loss of the season, going down 84-80 at Bendet Basketball Centre. The Lynx hit the front late in the fourth quarter after scoring 7 unanswered points, but the Fire hit back, scoring 9 points to 4 in the final 2 minutes. Perth now heads to Adelaide to play the Lightning on Saturday. Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn, better known as Ray Gunn, has retired following her highly publicised performance at the Paris Olympics. The Sydney-sider attracted worldwide attention and ridicule for her efforts in the sport's Olympic debut. Gunn, who has a PhD in cultural studies, says the reaction to her performance has prompted her to step away from the competition.
The level of scrutiny that's going to be there, and people will be filming it, it'll go online, and it's just not going to mean the same thing. It's not going to be the same experience because of everything that's at stake.
And now to the weather with Herlyn, Kaur, and there's more showers on the way, Herlyn.
Yeah, that's right, Pamela. There are. It'll be a wet start to the day tomorrow, likely during your commute to work, with another mild day ahead. It was cooler than average today, about 5 degrees below the usual temperatures for this time of year. Perth reached a top of 21.6 degrees just before 2 p.m. from a low of 10.7 around 5:40 a.m. and right now it's 16 degrees. It was a chilly morning for parts of the south. Both Newdigate and Wandering plunged to lows of 1 degree, while Port Hedland again managed to reach 45 degrees, making it the hottest place in WA today. On the satellite, a heat trough extending from the north interior into the NT and even Queensland has brought mid-level cloud with embedded thunderstorms over much of the country's interior. We've got a system off the west coast at the moment, making its way inland, which is what will bring those showers and storms tomorrow, including for Perth. A new broad trough will then lie over the Gascoyne and Central West this weekend, helping drive up temperatures by then. Around the country, there'll be showers and a storm in Brisbane, 33 degrees, a sunny and warm day for Sydney, 30, 24 and fine in the capital. Hobart is expecting a wet and windy day, 17, and so are Adelaide and Darwin, with showers on the cards tomorrow. Back to WA, and there will be showers and thunderstorms over the Kimberley interior and far eastern Pilbara, with possible showers over the southeastern parts of the Gascoyne. The Goldfields and Central West will also get a hit of those showers and thunderstorms tomorrow, tops of 32 for Leonora and Leinster, but it'll stay in the mid to high 20s towards the coast. The southwest will be mostly cloudy, but everywhere else in the region will see that rain. Albany is only set to reach 17 degrees, 22 for Esperance. The Great Southern will get those cooler daytime temperatures from lows in the single digits as well. Perth is expecting up to 6 millimetres of rain, mostly in the morning and afternoon, with a chance of a thunderstorm inland, reaching 23 degrees from a low of 12. On the local waters, winds will be southeasterly up to 20 knots, the sun rising at 5:13, setting at 6:48. And the outlook, it'll start to warm back up from Saturday, 25 degrees. Then it's sunny days from there, 27 on Monday, climbing to 28 by midweek, before Thursday's forecast to reach a very warm 30 degrees, Pamela, from a low of 14.
Thanks for that, Herlyn. That's ABC News for now. You can stay up to date with ABC News online, or you can catch the news anytime on ABC iView. Stay with us now, though, for 7:30.